Professor X Wild Reign begins in the Marvel Universe. Episode 51. Northwest from Texas, RVs soon entered New Mexico. A small town called Andrews. At an orphanage on the outskirts of town, Charlton uses an invisibility cloak to take Wanda into the orphanage. The two men are wrapped in cloaks of invisibility. The bodies can only be attached together. After all, this invisibility cloak has to wrap two people, and the space is very cramped. Wanda sniffed the nice aroma on Charles. Her heart was like a deer, she kept beating, and she felt that her breathing was a little heavy. In this orphanage, there are two mutant children, both of whom are bullied by other children. Because mutant kids wear mutant ability suppression collars. Even if you are bullied by other children and stoned, you cannot use the mutant ability. When Wanda saw this scene, she was so angry that she couldn't do it. Charles, aren't mutants also human? Why are they beating mutants? Wanda asked in a low voice. Because of human nature, it is not necessarily necessary to unite against the strong, but it will unite against the weak. Of course, the law restricts such behavior. But in the orphanage, who cares about these children who have no family? What's more, the target of their bullying is mutants. Is incapacity a weakling? I saw one of the mutants, little fatty, although his head was smashed and bleeding, he still picked up a stone and threw himself at the person who attacked him. A human child was injured by him. After a while, the nuns of the orphanage heard the cries and they rushed out of the church. When I saw a human child covering his injured hand, without asking, he slapped the little fat man indiscriminately, ignoring his still bleeding forehead. The nun also uttered vicious curses. You damn satanic elects should have let you die in the stinking gutter in the first place. The little fat man didn't say a word. He had long been accustomed to this unfair treatment. Wanda lifted her cloak of invisibility, and she couldn't help but shoot at these nuns. Even if a child bullies a mutant child unscrupulously, she can't bear it. Not to mention these nuns. Bang! 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 I saw that under the chaos magic, these nuns were either slammed on the trunk of the tree or hit the wall. In the blink of an eye, the three nuns fell to the ground, letting out a wail one after another. Sound attracts more people. Wanda was not used to them, and everyone was knocked to the ground by her, and almost every single one of them was broken. Even the children, she taught a lesson. With all this done, she and Charles took the two young children back to the RV. Because he watched the whole battle and did not do it himself, Charles was rewarded with a bronze treasure chest. After opening, it is a hacker variant ability. Charles only needs to touch the USB port of the computer with his finger to hack into the computer at any time. It is still more convenient to have this ability. You know, in the current era, there are surveillance cameras everywhere, and Charles can use the ability to hack into the network and clear videos about himself. Charles, one of them is called Jack and the other is called Russell. Jack's ability mimics, like a chameleon, he can passively adapt to his surroundings to conjure up a corresponding protective color. Russell's ability is flames, and his hands can release flames. Back in the car, Wanda said to Charles. She had removed the inhibition collars of both of them, and after removing the collars, Jack was out of control and his body color became the same as his surroundings. At close range, this mimicry, which can only change color, has little effect. If it is far away, it is really difficult to find. I don't know how many times stronger than the jungle camouflage of special forces. However, because he could not actively control it, his ability was the weakest epsilon level among mutants. As for the other one named Russell, he is a fierce man. Known as Fire Fist, it belongs to the beta class. Because the ability can generate flames on its own, it is even more powerful than John the Burning Man. Inside Deadpool 2. Russell is the villain of the future, and the Cable crosses from the future in order to kill him. From the kind of ruthlessness just now. It is indeed a ruthless character. Charles took Wanda on a trip, originally just to cultivate Wanda's sense of mission, to protect mutants. A great thinker said. A life with a sense of mission is the greatest work of mankind. When she has this sense of mission, Wanda can better control her emotions. Although the power of chaos is not as easy as the power of the Phoenix, it is easy to affect people's emotions. But this is the oldest force in the universe. Like a teenager who suddenly gains immeasurable wealth and boundless power. It's easy to hold on. But what I didn't expect was a casual trip. You can also find a very fierce mutant. This was a bonus. Using the Phantom Transfiguration, Charles sent the two back to Xavier's School for Gifted Youth, leaving Storm Girl in charge of arranging their accommodation and classes. When I returned to the RV, Clarice also followed. She drove the portal into the RV and jumped in. Charles was surprised. Clarice, this is impossible, you can't locate my location so accurately. Episode 52. Charles, your magic will produce a spatial fluctuation, so I can locate it, this is what I newly learned. Clarice raised her delicate little face and said very proudly. You are such a bull, does your family know? Oh, I'm your family. That's okay. Eastern Hazhou, a backward country. Backwardness and barrenness are the main themes here. For example, the country's largest capital does not even have a decent hotel, let alone facilities such as an airport. If you want to come here from far away, you must first fly to the airport of a neighboring country. Then take a bus out of the country. Finally, get into the country, very dilapidated operating vehicles, to reach your destination. Now, Magneto Eric is in this place. He followed Charles's advice and did not stay in Eagle Sauce to continue fighting with the federal government. Instead, he chose to control a small black state. Make yourself the new leader. Build a mutant nation. A small black state like this, Eric can control at will. But he can't see it, it's too backward. For mutants to develop, I don't know how many years it will take. Boss, I found that hidden place, you should go and check it out. A person suddenly appeared in Magneto's room. A two-headed mutant is brought by the Night Stalker. Nightcrawler is controlled by Stryker to assassinate the president. After Stryker finished, the Night Stalker was out of control. Magneto Eric finds him and makes him work for himself. As for the mutant with two heads, it is a mutant with a strong Morlock organization. He nicknamed the Ogre, not because he really eats people. Rather, in a Dota game, there is an Ogre Mage who has two heads, like the Ogre Mage. The Ogre's abilities are telepathic remote sensing and induction force field. He can act as a super powerful bioradar in a large space. Eric, after coming to this backward country. Here's some legends about the mysterious country. So, he sent ogres and nightcrawlers to find the place. You guys did a great job, it looks like it's going to be a very nice place. Eric smiled and let the Night Stalker catch him. The next moment, they came to a country hidden in a light curtain. In the distance, buildings full of sci-fi colors rise from the ground. There are also mysterious flying machines swimming in the sky. This refreshed Eric's three views. In the land of Black State, there is such a developed country? It's just like an alien civilization. Outsiders, stop, you have stepped into the sacred land of Wakanda. You will be greeted by the trial of Wakanda. A flying machine spotted them. The weapons on the flying machine were aimed at the three of Eric. It seems that no matter how powerful a civilization is, it is still inseparable from its dependence on metal. Eric waved his hand gently. The flying machine is like a baseball that has been bounced off, crashing in a parabola. This move is tantamount to declaring war on Wakanda. Unhurried, Eric said to the Night Stalker, go and bring Raven and them, and the Earth Beast, when it is time for him to show his might. Let him bring my army to this country. The Night Stalker returned soon. There is a limit to his abilities, and he can only take up to 4 people at a time. The 4 people brought this time are the most brave and good at fighting around Eric. Witch Raven. Deathwoman Yuriko Koyama. Toadman. Doppelgangers. Eric, this is truly a magical country. Ruiwan saw the scene in the distance and said sincerely. Yes, but my intuition tells me that Charles knows this place, so he asked me to go to the Black State to establish a mutant country. Eric said. Raven nodded. With the amplification of the brainwave intensifier, his telepathy can cover the whole world, and he really should know here. At this time, in the city of Wakanda, dozens of flying machines roared like a swarm of bees. For these flying machines, Eric opened his arms and slowly rose his figure. Soon it reached a height at level with the aircraft. How he flew, it's not scientific. Wakanda Palace Control Room. Princess Su Rue looked at the picture on the video with a look of disbelief. Someone with their own ability to break away from gravity? Like Thor, the Avengers god of thunder. Is he an Asgardian god? Magneto Eric Lanchel, the most fearsome mutant in the world. Chala, who is still the prince, said. Wakanda has the most advanced technology in the world, and although it implements a closed-door policy, it is not closed to outside information. At this time, under Eric's control of electromagnetism, all the screens in Wakanda were his pictures. Your country will be ruled by mutants, your technology will be owned by mutants, and mutants will make merciful choices for those who choose to submit. Damn, arrogant mutants, Wakanda has never been threatened by anyone. Above the throne, the old king in his 60s, with white sideburns and weather-beaten, said angrily. He began to give orders for full-scale combat. If it is the invasion of the most terrifying mutants in the world, it is not against ordinary arms traffickers, and the Kingdom Patrol alone cannot solve the problem. Border guards, kingdom guards, and guards are needed to fight together. The big war is on the verge. Episode 53. Thundered. When Wakanda chose to fight in full force, on Eric's side, a mound suddenly puffed up in the ground. When the mound cracked, a large number of mutants sprang up inside. There is not one, but as many as 7 such mounds have appeared in succession. Hundreds of mutants were transported here. This number is a number of mutants who can fight, not all mutants, led by Eric. Most of them belong to the Morlock organization. Earth Beast, good job. The boss said that your abilities should be displayed in the outside world, not in the sewers of Washington. Toad said to one of the last dwarf mutants to appear. The Earth Beast was born an ugly dwarf. His ability can transport living and non-living things underground in large quantities. Inferior to the Night Stalker in speed and agility. But in terms of quantity, it is incomparable to the Night Stalker. The Earth Beast grinned. Not only did he look ugly, he couldn't even speak. Most of the Morlock organization is one of these alienated, or hugely flawed mutants. It was abandoned by human society at a very early age. Midair. Eric pushed forward with both hands, and all the flying machines creaked, even if they were made of vibranium, but in the face of Magneto's power, they were still destroyed. So S.H.I.E.L.D. has developed a lot of plastic weapons against Eric. Wakanda has no research on this. It was too late to hold Buddha's feet temporarily. I saw Eric jerk, and all the aircraft were scrapped and crashed. Air battlefield, Wakanda is vulnerable. The troops on the ground were also defeated. After all, although Wakanda is technologically advanced, it can be self-sufficient, which lacks competition. Without competition, there is no driving force for development. The Wakanda people are still accustomed to fighting with cold weapons. However, except for the Black Panther, all Wakanda people are just ordinary people. How can they fight hundreds of mutants? To know that a mutant Namor can enter and exit Wakanda as if it were no man's land. Forcefully killed the old queen on the territory of Wakanda. In the field, the doppelganger alone is equivalent to 1,000-strong death commando. All of them are exactly the same people, armed with assault rifles, fearless to rush to the front. As for what the doppelganger is doing. Chat with a mutant girl in the back. A mutant nicknamed the Winged Demon with a soft membrane of flesh under her arms. When her arms are spread, she finds that her arms have 3 joints. The arm span, or it can also be said that the wingspan is close to 4 meters. This wing gives her the ability to fly like a bat. When she fluttered her wings and flew, Death Girl and Raven grabbed her ankles left and right, and just like that, they directly crossed the obstacles and flew towards the Wakanda palace. They need to end this battle as soon as possible. After all, Wakanda's weapon is the mutant's weapon. The resources of Wakanda are the resources of mutants. So you can't consume too much in this war. The old king looked out from the palace, and it was a one-sided massacre. Wakanda, who has been comfortable for too many years, simply can't fight the mutants who come out of the sewers and yearn for a new home. No one likes a stinking, dark environment in the sewers. When Magneto Eric told them he will get them back on the ground, back in the sun, and can take a big breath of fresh air, when they believe and join the Brotherhood of Mutants. Now, Eric tells them that the rich country in front of them will be the new home of mutants. There is no one who does not fight for this sacrifice of life. Because even if they die in battle, their next generation will not have to survive like they once did, like rats in the sewers. At this time, there are already quite a few mutants storming the palace. The old king knew that the fall of Wakanda was a foregone conclusion, and he wanted T'Challa to take the heart-shaped grass and the panther suit with him. Know that the panther is the guardian of this country. When Black Panthers will inheritors have lost hope and no longer protect the country, the battle is meaningless. Magneto Eric came over the capital, and he controlled a large warplane to smash into the palace. The wings of the fighters rushed directly at the old kings and them. Bang! After the violent explosion, the king and queen of Wakanda were killed. Su-Rue was also seriously injured. T'Challa fled to the hangar with Su-Rue and wanted to leave Wakanda in a flying machine, but she did not know that the Death Woman was waiting for them. Eric's order not to allow any Wakanda to flee. Seeing this, T'Challa took the ring and equipped the panther suit. But even the panther suit could not stop the claws of the Death Woman, and one scar after another appeared on T'Challa's body. Even if T'Challa wounds the dead woman, the latter can also recover quickly, which is the same unique recovery ability as Wolverine and saber-toothed tiger. In the end, the future Black Panther T'Challa hates under the claws of the Death Woman. There is also the Panther after Chala, and Princess Su Rue also fell under her paws. Such a record can be said to be the MVP of the whole game. Episode 54. Magneto Eric takes Wakanda in a blitzkrieg. The entire battle did not exceed 2 hours in total. Wakanda's defensive barrier, in addition to generating an illusory light curtain, can also shield all electromagnetic signals and satellite signals. So much so that this war, no one in the outside world knows. Eric then transferred all the mutants to Wakanda, a process that didn't alarm anyone. It wasn't until the next day that Team America and Hawkeye, who were in charge of surveillance, discovered that the mutant was missing. That's more than 1,000 mutants. Disappeared without a trace. You know, when they learned that Eric was going to take the small country and establish the mutant country. They thought that what Eric was going to capture was the country they were in. As a result, all mutants now seem to have evaporated from the world. In desperation, the American team had to notify Fury. Fury suddenly felt incredulous. Could it be that Eric of Magneto is back in Eagle Sauce? Captain Rogers, it looks like you and Barton can come back. What about Eric? Magneto didn't care about him? Team America said depressedly. No, I made adjustments to the plan for mutants. We need to be ready for all-out war. Stark is already working on the anti-magnetic field suit, as well as the mind shield helmet, and after Eric's arrest, the Shield Academy of Sciences studied his helmet. With the existing technology, we can make it, mainly because the material is relatively rare. Fury only partially informed. In addition to what he said, there is the mutant antidote being developed by Worthington's lab. The Insight program that S.H.I.E.L.D. is preparing to carry out. Project Insight could improve algorithms to target mutants. And the final killer app, the Sentinel robot made by Trask Industries. According to Fury's current thinking, he needs to postpone the Insight program and wait for good news from Worthington's lab. This makes it possible to get an antidote through mutants. Soldiers do not bloody blades, first solve most of the mutants. For the remaining mutant diehards, use the Insight project to eliminate them. As for the last bit, the mutants who narrowly escaped Project Insight. That's S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers alive. On the highway where vehicles are scarce. Quicksilver was driving the RV and heading to Louisiana. The state's racial discrimination has always been the most serious problem in Eagle Sauce. Probably the reason for this inheritance. Louisiana, when it comes to mutants, is also one of the harshest states. A civilian group called the Purifiers, formed spontaneously by local residents, attacks all mutants. If mutants dare to fight back, that would be met with even more violent retaliation. The state government will also personally deal with mutants. Mutants who inadvertently use their abilities to cause damage to public property can be sentenced to 10 years in prison if tried in Louisiana courts. Clarice used her ability to run to the RV, not to cling to Charles. She just hoped that Charles would save her netizens. That's right. It's netizens. A mutant netizen whose screen name is Polaris. As far as Clarice knows, Polaris belongs to a mutant conservation group. They are in Louisiana, protecting persecuted mutants. In a recent operation, Polaris was arrested, and the court sentenced her to up to 50 years in prison for her crimes. It's so abominable, for protecting mutants destroying several police cars, he was sentenced to 50 years in prison. Wanda said indignantly. It's simply sensational. The judge's sentence is so severe, no one has yet objected. It can be seen that the mutants in Louisiana have been completely trampled under the feet of humans. In comparison, mutants in other regions just live worse. It has not been so brazenly persecuted. It is said that when the Clear organization deals with mutants, it causes casualties among mutants, and does not need to bear any responsibility for this. Clarice said. These were all told to her by Polaris before. Wanda felt incredible. Isn't Eagle Sauce the most focused on human rights? Can you kill people casually under the guise of dealing with mutants? Charles shook his head and said, it's no different from going to a butcher shop under the guise of vegetarianism. The so-called focus on human rights is just a story told by those in power, because it can get more votes. Louisiana uses this harsh approach against mutants, and apparently, it's the members of the state legislature who are currying favor with the majority. Wanda doesn't see things as thoroughly as Charles. She just thought it was ridiculous. Deal with mutants and please the majority. What are the human rights advocated? Pietro parked. It looks like the Louisiana Mutant Protection Organization, ready to do it on the escort road. Charles used his telepathic ability to discover that there were many powerful mutants hidden in the nearby section. So he told Quicksilver Pietro to stop and wait and see. P.S. Regarding the point of writing Dead Panthers, in fact, Fawn wrote 2 drafts. One is that the Panther took Subrue and ran to Eagle Sauce for help, but right so, and the conflict will begin immediately. So the second scheme was used, Wakanda was completely destroyed, and Magneto Go developed. Episode 55. Louisiana's Mutant Conservation Group, led by a mutant nicknamed Thunderbird. Thunderbird John Orr. His abilities are mainly strength, speed, and super hearing. In addition to the Thunderbird, the core members of this conservation organization are mainly Eclipse Marcos, Sweet Dream Sonia Simonson, Negative Sonic Boy Warhead and a mutant called Hyde, with stealth abilities. At this time, the Thunderbird is standing on the overpass. This ensures that his vision commands the overall situation. I saw the escort car, the latest rhinoceros chariot produced by Stark Industries, and it will need Marcus's ability to open it. Thunderbird touched the headset with one hand and said. Sweet Dream sits in the driver's seat of a red sedan on the side of the road. She is not part of the combat unit, she is mainly responsible for temporary support. John, how many police cars are there? There are 2 in front of the Rhino chariot, 3 in the back, etc. I saw 2 black Escalades, probably from Sentinel Security. This news made everyone frown. Sentinel Security, a private armed force active in Louisiana. For the background of this company, Thunderbirds, they have not been able to investigate clearly. It is only known that the Sentinel Security Company specifically targets mutants. They are more professional than detectives and scavengers. Polaris was transferred from a normal prison to a mutant prison, and there was no need for such fanfare. John, they're fishing, and that's obviously targeting us. Hiding began to retreat. The state government knows the identity of the North Star, and they know that they will definitely save the North Star. If sent to the prison number 5, dedicated to mutants. I want to save people again with their strength. It is absolutely impossible. So on the way, it's the only chance. Hyde, Lorna is our comrade in arms, we will definitely save her. If it is not Lorna who wants to be saved today, but you, we will not give up. Marco said. Okay, the escort vehicle is almost in place, or it is carried out according to the original plan. Warhead, you need to deal with the people of the Sentinel Security Company first. After the Thunderbird was arranged, it began to wait. This time, in order to save the North Star Lorna, they dispatched 8 mutants. When the rhinoceros chariot escorting the North Star is going downhill, a mutant used his ability to create a bulge in the cement road. The sudden bulge caused the vehicle to suddenly lose control. The driver slammed the steering wheel and applied the brakes to regain control of the vehicle. Right at this moment, the electronic components of the vehicle sighed and all burned down. This is also caused by mutants. A Delta mutant girl whose ability is directed to electromagnetic pulses. The rhinoceros chariot is completely out of control. After a bang, the vehicle rolls over and spins on the ground. 3 police cars followed closely behind. 2 more cars did not have time to brake and hit them, making a heavy duong sound. For a while, there was a very serious car accident on this section of the road. The Thunderbird jumped from the overpass, and he took a very fast step and rushed towards the 2 police cars in front. The 2 police cars in front were not impacted. The detective got out of the car and shot him while shouting for reinforcements. For these fierce shots, the Thunderbird simply shielded its head. His physical strength is not as strong as that of Abomination or Red Tank. But ordinary thermal weapons can do very little damage to him. Unless it's a shotgun at close range. Or a highly kinetic firearm like Barrett. It is possible to cause fatal injuries. In short, the Thunderbird ability does not seem to be particularly prominent, but in fact there is no shortcoming. The Thunderbird, who rushed to the near front, punched people and flew them out. While he solved the battle on this side, Eclipse Marcos is also approaching the rhinoceros chariot. Marcos does not have the defense power of a Thunderbird, his ability is mainly to absorb and release sunlight. The heat of the sun released instantaneously can reach a high temperature of more than 1,000 degrees. To open a rhinoceros chariot from the outside, it must be Marcos to do it. The other side. 2 black Escalade cars. The mercenaries employed by the Sentinel Security Company inside got out of the car, they opened the lockbox, and the octopus-like robot rolled out of it. This is a robot specifically aimed at mutants. The mercenaries of the Sentinel Security Company gave them the name Sharp Knife very appropriately. Because this robot, like a sharp knife, tears through the defense line formed by mutants. After the negative Sonic Boy's warhead charged its power, it directly crashed into a vehicle, and the vehicle accurately hit the Escalade. Half of the mercenaries directly hated the Northwest. But one by one, the light-cut, octopus-like sharp knife robot was not damaged. They came out of 2 squashed cars. The red camera above directly locks the warhead. Damn, John, the Sentinel Security Company dispatched 1, 2, 3, 6 sharp-knifed robots, and my side needs support. After hearing this, the Thunderbird said to Marcos, "You open this car as soon as possible, I will go to support the warhead first." Understood. Marcos folded his palms together, and a ray emitting solar heat cut through the side of the vehicle. Scorching rays, like cutting chocolate with a heated dinner knife. He can cut it, but not too fast. Charles's RV stopped on the side of the road, and Wanda couldn't help but stand up and said, "Charles, I'm going to help them?" Charles smiled and nodded. "Why else would I let Pietro stop here and do what you think is right?" "Charles, I'm going too." Clarice raised her hand. Then she was held down by Charles. "You can't." Episode 56. Headquarters, Sentinel Security, Louisiana. On the screen of the command center, it is the picture of the Mutant Protection Organization solving the North Star. Thunderbird John, Aurora. Negative Sonic Boy Warhead. Eclipse Marcos. Maybe this wave can kill them all. Stupid mutant, feel the horror of the sharp-knifed robot. The staff of the command center had a feverish look on their faces. They are all staunch supporters of mutant guilt. Devils who think mutants are born filthy, cursed by God. They shouldn't live in the world. A person in charge presses the button for combat mode. Suddenly, all sharp-knife robots operate at full power. The warhead blew up the two robots with a shock wave, but a special light wave formed on the surface of the robot, as if it could absorb this impact. The attack of the warhead is ineffective against them. A sharp-edged robot sticks out a spike from its tentacle and is about to stab the warhead. The Thunderbird strode forward, grabbed the tentacles of the sharp-knifed robot, and threw it aside. Then he blocked the second sharp-knifed robot. At the cost of getting a knife in the body, rip off the tentacles of the sharp-knifed robot. But the sharp-knifed robot has 8 tentacles. Even if you lose 2 or 3 tentacles, it will not affect any action. Warhead, go to the Marcos side to rendezvous. This damn thing can only hurt them with the ability of Marcos. Thunderbird said. Good. The warhead nodded his head. They have been cooperating with each other for a long time, and they have a tacit understanding. I saw that the warhead began to charge, and she blew up a car in the direction of Marcos. The Thunderbird jumped into the car at the end of the day and grabbed the warhead. In this way, they fled tens of meters in an instant. Hearing the roar of the car, Marcos bowed his head in fright. I saw the car flying over his head. The Thunderbird has jumped down from above holding the warhead. Taunt, can you control the angle of the warhead next time? Marcos muttered angrily. The warhead coolly gave him a middle finger. Marcos, the rhinoceros chariot is open, there are 6 sharp-bladed robots, you need to use your abilities to deal with them. Do you think I'm Iron Man's arc reactor? Marcos only felt that his head was big. His ability is to absorb solar energy and then release it. He can store solar energy, but this storage is like a dam storing water, it has a limit. Okay, it's open. At this time, Marcos burned a rectangular narrow door on the side of the car. The Thunderbird turned around and kicked the door open. Bang! Bang! What he didn't want to meet him was 2 shotguns. The Thunderbird was knocked upside down and fell hard to the ground. Seeing this, Marcos pointed his palm at the inside of the car, and the scorching light shot in, and a man's screams were directly heard inside. Bastard, there is no North Star in it, we are deceived, the intelligence of the person in the police station is fake. After the intercom system finished speaking, Marcos continued, John is injured, and there are 6 sharp-knifed robots approaching on our side. I'll deal with them and prepare to evacuate. After this order was given, a total of 3 cars approached this way. They were Dream Sedan, an SUV, and a large van. Here Marcos dealt with 6 sharp knife robots, which was extremely difficult. His ability is a point attack. The damage value caused in an instant exceeds the upper limit that the sharp knife robot can bear. But this instantaneous burst is also very taxing on the body. The capabilities of the warhead are indistinguishable from friend or foe, and in this environment they do not have any effect. Wanda, who got out of the car, walked this way. Above her hands, a red mist of light lingered, just as she was about to strike. I saw a man riding a motorcycle and rushing towards the Marcos them. The motorcycle braked sharply. The rider was thrown out in an instant. In midair, a 180-degree rotation, the rider landed steadily, and at the same time a gorgeous purple samurai long knife swept across, and 3 sharp knife robots were cut off in unison. Only then did everyone see from her graceful figure that this was a woman. The samurai sword in her hand is not a physical entity. Rather, it is a purple energy light. When she danced the long knife again, the long knife transformed into two short swords, which were more suitable for close combat. Destroy the two sharp-knifed robots again, leaving the last sharp-knifed robot to escape. The woman's twin swords transformed into a 3-cross marker. Nail directly to the sharp-knife robot to make it scrapped. As if the defense of the sharp-knifed robot, the attack on her simply did not work. Wanda looked at this scene in amazement. Without her making a move, a powerful mutant actually appeared. Fuck. Sentinel Security Company Command Center. After all screens went black, the person in charge, Turner, let out an angry roar. Who was that mutant just now? Mutant Protection Organization, when did it have such a ruthless role? Our hunting dogs actually have no news at all. Head, that's not the Mutant Protection Group, that's a mutant ranger. Her name is Elizabeth Betsy Braddock, nicknamed Spirit Butterfly. She haunts all over the Americas and protects countless mutants. A subordinate found information about the Spirit Butterfly in the database. Mutant Ranger, then this time she came to the wrong place. Update the database of the sharp knife robot and generate a way to deal with this attack, so this time it is not for nothing. Turner thought for a moment and said. The sharp knife robot is an upgrade completed in this kind of battle. Episode 57. Spirit Butterfly and Thunderbird together go to an abandoned paper mill. This is the temporary base of the Mutant Protection Organization. More than 100 mutants shelter the base. The North Star Lorna you want to save has been transferred to prison number 5 a day earlier, and today is just a trap set by the Sentinel Security Company. Ling Dai said to them. Dream Sonia's face was ugly, and said, that is the only prison where mutants are held in solitary confinement, and it is said that it is heavily guarded, and it is impossible to escape if you are locked inside. Ling Dai shook his head and said, actually, that's not the only one, nor the strictest. Shield's Icebox prison is far more secure than prison number 5. But even if it is an icebox prison, someone can successfully escape from prison. I hope to join forces with the Mutant Protection Organization this time to attack prison number 5 and rescue our compatriots. What Ling Dai said was something that Thunderbirds did not dare to think about. They're just trying to protect mutants. The Clearer and Sentinel Security Company have exhausted them. Attack on prison number 5. That is tantamount to being an enemy of the world. So. After Ling Dai's voice fell, no one in the conference room spoke, and they all looked at each other. At this time, a mutant knocked on the door and came in, saying, John, there are 4 mutants outside, and there is a netizen who claims to be Lorna. Let them wait a bit, and I'll meet them when I'm done talking. Thunderbird thought for a moment and said. He knew that Lorna was on the web and had set up a mutant mutual aid website. Since it is a netizen of Polaris Lorna, that should be the mutant asking for help. Compared with the two, the things on the Spirit Butterfly's side are more important. I think you'd better meet them, maybe that will change your decision. I could feel that they were strong, and some of them were very strong, surpassing all the mutants I had ever seen. Ling Dai looked out the door with curiosity. She has a certain ability of telepathic remote sensing. She has traveled all over the Americas and seen countless mutants. No one's energy could make her shudder. And such fluctuations are not one, but two. One is unfathomable. One is like an ocean. Thunderbird and the others were shocked by Ling Dai's words. In their opinion, the strength of the Spirit Butterfly was already extremely strong, but now the Spirit Butterfly told them that someone was strong enough to surpass all the mutants they had ever seen. At the moment, Charles is studying the reward he just received. He knew early on that Lorna was not in the rhinoceros chariot. But he did not ask about the actions of Thunderbird and others, nor did he interfere with Wanda, who was preparing to strike. Therefore, he was rewarded with a silver treasure chest. After opening, there is Krypton Superman template. Simply put, ordinary Kryptonians are not comparable to General Zod, and even less comparable to Silver Dachow. But even if ordinary Kryptonians, if there is a yellow sun charge, it is still no problem to fight a dozen Steppenwolves. Speed, strength, and defensive capabilities, at least equal to the level of Sub-Heavenly Father. Physical fitness is my only shortcoming at present, and if I make up for this shortcoming, there is no problem in resisting the Heavenly Father. That kind of single universe level with obvious shortcomings, he can also go up and give 2 large pockets. Charles was very pleased with the reward. The silver treasure chest opened the Krypton Superman template, and he is really the Emperor of Europe. Of course. Like Krypton Superman template, why it appears in the silver chest. It's not hard to understand either. Because Krypton Superman is an ordinary Kryptonian, it is not particularly rare. After the main yellow sun, the strength will rub, like riding a rocket. The average Kryptonian Superman is not comparable to General Zod. Krypton's fertility uses gene editing technology. General Zod is the top of the warrior system. If it is a General Zod template, at least the combat effectiveness of the Heavenly Father. If the silver is great, the monolithic universe level will start and easily reach the multiverse level. Hello, may I ask which of you is a netizen of Polaris Lorna? Charles heard the sound of the Thunderbird before returning to his senses. Clarice had volunteered to stand up and said, "It's me. I met last year on the Mutant Mutual Aid website and Polaris. We are trying to save Polaris, isn't she in today's escort car? The old bottom is all out, right?" Charles complained in his heart. Fortunately, Thunderbird and others are not bad people, otherwise others would not need to be interrogated, and they would all not fight themselves. Lorna has been transferred to Prison 5, which is a prison created in Louisiana specifically for mutants. Sweet dreams, Sonia regretted. Then we can go to the prison, right? Clarice asked. Hearing these words, Ling Dai leaned against a wall with her arms in her arms, and a smile gently hooked at the corner of her mouth. Apparently, the prison robbery plan is already imperative. Episode 58. I'm not against robbing prisons, but you can't fight because you're not yet an adult. Charles said like an old father. The negative Sonic teenager on the side rolled his eyes. She's not an adult. However, mutants are the main precocious. The children of poor families will be in charge of the house early, and mutants will face the dangers of the world too early. We're all right, when do we do it? Quicksilver is eager to try. Because the speed is fast enough, his temperament is also relatively urgent. It was as if it was almost evening now. The thinking of normal people is to make a plan, rest for one night, and act the next day. Quicksilver's thinking is to make a plan, save people, and when you come back, take a detour to Chicago to buy hot dogs, and then you can catch the Friends broadcast. We also need to think about it. The main thing is that we need a well-thought-out plan. Dream Sonia pulled the Thunderbird who was about to speak. In this team, Sonia is Thunderbird's girlfriend. Her ability is to compile and modify memories. Regardless of ability or gender, she is calmer than others, and most of the time acts as a think tank. Ling Butterfly and these newly arrived mutants are obviously not afraid of big things. But they are different. There are more than 100 mutants sheltered here, and they need to think about these people. During dinner in the evening, Wanda saw the food here and took the initiative to share the snacks of the RV with the mutant children. Do you usually eat these? Charles pointed to the brown bread, 2 small pieces of chicken and a little veggie on the plate. Asked to the warhead sitting across from him. Otherwise, Louisiana won't offer jobs to mutants, and the scavengers have our photos and profiles. Now the shelter is funded by everyone's savings. And those mutants who are not exposed will also fund us. Do we need to thank the state for not freezing our bank cards? Warhead put a piece of chicken in his mouth and said coldly. After dinner, Ling Dai found Charles and communicated. She didn't know that Charles was the famous Professor X. Because Ling Dai had never met Professor X. Professor X wants to build bridges of friendship with humans, and Magneto is a mutant supremacist. Spirit Butterfly hopes to use her power to help more mutants. As Sentinel security employee said, she is a mutant ranger. Fight the sword, be quick to take revenge. But there is no longer-term plan like Professor X and Magneto. Of course. Ling Dai had heard of Professor X, and she knew that Professor X was paralyzed and needed to sit in a wheelchair, so she would not associate Charles in the direction of Professor X. I can feel that you are very strong, and you are also a psychic ability. Your psychic ability completely shielded my telepathic remote sensing. On the roof of the old factory building, Ling Dai sat next to Charles, looking at the moon in the sky like a jade disc with him. So, what do you want me to do? Charles asked straight to the point. This shelters all informers, so Polaris Lorna was transferred to Prison 5 in advance. Before the prison robbery, I wanted to catch the whistleblower. My telepathic remote sensing only has the most basic inductive effect. I can't read the thoughts of others. I want you to find out that person. Hearing Ling Dai say that there was an informant, Charles was not surprised. Sentinel Security Corporation's Hound Project. Use a drug called Kick to control the mutants. The effect is definitely inferior to the bodily fluids of the Illusion Master. However, the advantage is that the amount of pipe is enough. It is useless against mutants with strong willpower, but spreading fish in a large net can always control a group of mutants. The Sentinel Security Company collects mutants who are good at combat for their own use. The rest is dispersed and used as eyeliner. I'm sorry, but I can't read the memories of others without permission. Charles shook his head. In fact, I didn't take eyeliner seriously. Anyway, the strength is crushing. regardless of the Sentinel Security Company, whether or not the wind was received in advance. The result is constant. I don't care if I don't ask, I can still get a rotten reward. After Ling Dai left, helplessly, the sound of the swinging system sounded, and Charles was rewarded with a bronze chest. After opening, it is a portable brainwave enhancer. It looks like a headband. The effect after wearing it is the same as the brainwave enhancer of Xavier's Genius Youth Academy. Charles tried it on. Psychic perception was instantly magnified hundreds of times. Powerful perception can reach every corner of the globe. For example, Gwen in Europe, Charles quickly found her, and Gwen seemed to be thinking about himself. The next moment, Charles's telepathic perception appeared in Brooklyn. Jessica is accompanying her sister Tracy to eat at an upscale restaurant. She will never seem out of place with that environment. The power of psychic perception comes to the Black State. Charles wanted to see what Magneto Eric's plan to take a country was. Northeast Black State. Rub, Lawan knocked Wakanda down. No wonder there has been no movement for so long. Eric takes Wakanda and gets Wakanda's vibranium resources. Isn't it that Wu Delang and Wu Song exchanged bodies, shotguns, for cannons? Episode 59. In northern Louisiana, a car crosses a jungle road and you can see prison number 5. The prison was built on a flat open field. From the outside, it looks like an ordinary prison. But when a mutant connects himself to a computer with a data cable, after a while, a three-dimensional picture of the prison appeared on the computer screen, including all corridors, cells, and firepower, all clearly defined. This can be seen from the firepower configuration. The prison has 5 times the firepower of a regular prison. At this time, half of the prisoners in the prison compound are ventilating the wind, and the other half will be scheduled to be released in the afternoon. That is, there are always half of the mutants in the cell. Mutants who are caught in prison will be put on mutant suppression collars, so we can't arrange for people to go in and get inside and outside. Thunderbird repeated the plan. From 9 to 11 a.m. every day, the prison has 2 hours to be open. From 3 to 5 p.m., it is also wind time. But only half of them at a time. They can use the Phantom's abilities to create false phantoms to deceive the prison guards. The southwest end of the courtyard wall was destroyed by crushing. That was the weakest point in the entire prison. The next most important point is to destroy the mutant suppression collar. As long as there is no restraint on the suppression collar, the prisoners will become our helpers. Leave this to me, Wanda said. She had already practiced last night and could use chaos magic to complete more elaborate operations. At least it is guaranteed that the mutant's neck will not be wrung when the collar is broken. Then we will attack the main control room and the cell and rescue the rest of the people. Thunderbird looked at Spirit Butterfly and Quicksilver. He thought that the powerful mutants that Ling Dai was talking about were Wanda and Quicksilver. Because Wanda and Quicksilver have shown their abilities. As for Charles, it should be a relatively ordinary mutant. First, the hidden use of stealth ability to bring everyone under the courtyard wall at the southwest end. Then, the Phantom created an illusion. It's like a normal prison facade. Smash puts his hands on the thick courtyard wall, which is being assimilated into a crystalline substance. The crushed body is also made of such a crystalline substance. This substance is characterized by its fragility. When the Smash assimilated into the 3-meter-wide courtyard wall, the Thunderbird put his hand on the Smash's shoulder, signaling that he could rest. The reason for opening such a big gap. It was to wait for the mutant prisoners to escape, so as not to be overcrowded. The Smash retreated, and the Thunderbird suddenly kicked on the crystal. Click, click. The crystals cracked in large areas, then shattered and collapsed. Such a big movement can no longer be hidden. The prison immediately sounded the alarm. The battle begins. In the warden's office, Turner, the head of the Sentinel Security Company, said to the warden, "As I said, destroy all mutants." Without saying a word, the warden gave the order. Because there was a mutant with mind control ability standing next to Turner. This is the Hound, controlled by Kirk. Last night, Sentinel Security had learned about the plans of the Mutant Protection Group. When they heard it, they were all taken aback. That group of mutants like dogs who lost their families. You actually want to attack prison number 5. Just by them. But no matter how stupid the Mutant Protection Group is, Sentinel Security still responded. This time they mobilized all the resources of Louisiana Sentinel Security, including the purgators of 3 nearby cities. It is also being assembled at prison number 5. This will soon not be a mutant prison, but a damn mutant cemetery. Turner had a cruel smile on his face. The mutants of the prison compound saw a courtyard wall collapse just before they knew what was happening. Tap-da-da. Above the watchtowers around them, machine guns sprayed dense tongues of fire. The bullet is not hitting the Thunderbirds them. Rather, all the mutant prisoners who attacked. Nope. Seeing this, Wanda shouted. She wanted to hold up the red light mist to help block the bullet, but it was too late. Seeing that the bullet is about to hit these mutants, penetrate their bodies, end their lives. Right at this moment, all the bullets froze in midair, as if imprisoned by a mysterious force. Charles stood beside Wanda at some point, gave Wanda a reassuring smile, and said, "Now change to me." Charles flicked his hand, where all the bullets came from. The soldiers on the watchtower were all beaten into a sieve. This scene stunned everyone. Thunderbird looked at Charles in fear. He realized that the powerful mutant that Ling Dai was talking about was actually the person in front of him. The warhead is like seeing a monster. She thought she was the most violent mutant protection group. But compared to Charles, he is like a baby rabbit. Turner in the warden's office only felt a chill rush up from the soles of his feet and spread throughout his body. He didn't expect the Mutant Protection Organization to have such powerful mutants. Now I only hope that the sharp knife robot can help. And all inside. The most shocking was Polaris Lorna. Because the ability used by Charles seems to be the same as hers. Episode 60. Wanda looked at Charles's handsome side face, that tall nose, thin lips, and sword-like eyebrows, and the entire facial contour was impeccable. Although with only one move, all watchtower firepower was destroyed. Charles still looked that elegant and calm. "Wanda, are you coming or am I coming?" Charles turned his head to meet Wanda's eyes, his eyes touched, and Wanda's heart was as flustered as a deer. I'll do it. Don't be nervous, think about the magic alert you created, it won't be difficult to destroy the collar at all. Charles's gentle voice made Wanda involuntarily calm down. Since Charles said it wasn't difficult, she could definitely do it. Thinking of this, Wanda raised her hands, and the red mist of light lingered on the collar around everyone's neck with her thoughts. When Wanda's palm twisted slightly, the mutant suppressed the collar and also began to make a click, click sound. Charles's face showed approval. "Wanda, this progress is really super fast. Think about it, in the Avengers, Wanda can only use chaos magic to tear and move things, or invade the brain to create some illusions. Now Wanda can already complete more refined operations. Of course, destroying the mutant suppression collar, Charles only needs to shake the palm of his hand. But that loses its meaning. It is still necessary for Wanda to have enough participation in the cause of saving mutants. For example, solving mutant orphans, delivering snacks to mutant children in shelters, and opening everyone's inhibition collar here. When a person does the right thing, she will reap the satisfaction in her heart that is difficult to express in words. And it will also create bonds invisibly. Click, click. The destroyed collars fell to the ground one after another, and as the inhibition ability disappeared, some mutants with alienated characteristics returned to their original appearance. But even if it were to return to its original appearance, no one would want to be locked up in this damn prison. Listen to me, mutants with combat capabilities, join us in storming the prison and rescuing our compatriots. If you don't have the ability to fight, you can go out from here, and someone outside will be responsible for picking you up. Thunderbird shouted loudly, directing these crowds of excited mutants. In Louisiana, Thunderbird John Orr has a strong appeal. Some of the mutants imprisoned here were members of mutant protection organizations, and some were helped by mutant protection organizations. Even if not, at least I've heard of an organization in Louisiana that is desperate to shelter mutants. So, when the Thunderbirds gave the order, the mutants at the scene divided into two waves in an orderly manner. One wave joined the Thunderbirds and their camp, and the other wave began to evacuate. This prison also has underground cells, which also hold mutants. My ability is healing, and I was once taken there to treat a mutant. An elderly mutant came forward and said that he should have followed another group of people to evacuate. I know that entrance, I can show you there. Thunderbird subconsciously looked at Charles. Mutants follow the most primitive strength, and when Charles saves all mutants, he becomes the leader of these people. You go to that underground cell in a team, and Pietro you go with you. Understood. Quicksilver Pietro made an okay gesture. Before Charles and them could break into the cell, the sharp knife robots of the Sentinel Security Company swarmed. These robots are Sentinel Security's trump card against mutants. Many of the mutants present were caught by sharp-knifed robots. Therefore, they are inherently afraid of sharp-knife robots. It was Polaris Lorna, and there was also a look of fear on her face. She told Charles, this robot generates an energy field that counteracts the magnetic force, and the way you control the metal is useless for them. Useless? Isn't that the nature of Sentinel robots? So this sharp knife robot is a byproduct of the Sentinel robot. Nor can it be said to be a byproduct, like the so-called youth version of mobile phones. The core traits are exactly the same as those of the Sentinel robot. But the cost is low and easy to use. The main thing is that sharp-knifed robots can collect data on mutant combat. In just a split second, Charles had a clear picture of the situation in Louisiana. Louisiana's persecution of mutants must have something to do with the state's long-standing racial discrimination. Redneck doesn't look at all people of color, let alone mutants. And at the legal level, it is Trask Industries that drives all this. They took control of the state legislature and established a subsidiary called Sentinel Security to legally deal with mutants. Use sharp-bladed robots to fight mutants, collect data, and refine the development of Sentinel robots. Thinking of this, Charles wanted to test the strength of the sharp knife robot. In this way, it can be judged to what extent Trask Industries has developed Sentinel robots. Because the Sentinel robot can only be one generation stronger than the sharp knife robot at most. He reached for the sharp-knifed robot. Metal control. This ability is released, as Polaris Lorna said, there is an invisible energy field around the sharp knife robot that can counteract the magnetic control. It should be more than magnetism, mutants have a variety of abilities, and this energy field can offset most of it. The shockwave of the warhead, the effect on these iron pimples is also not very good. Polaris Lorna saw Charles stunned and scoffed. I said it wouldn't work, you might as well try attacking them with something else. Also a variant of magnetism, Lorna grabbed the building on the side, the house cracked, and several steel bars dragged along Lorna's ability, piercing the sharp-knifed robot. After doing all this, Lorna also raised an eyebrow at Charles as if defiantly. What a situation. Is magnetically repulsive? Shouldn't it be same-sex repulsion and opposite-sex attraction? Why is this girl so hostile to herself? Charles felt that this was very wrong, but it should not be flattened.